Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting people like April here on topics that help our listeners, that's you, find the resources, tools, and support that they need to be their best inspired selves. So how are you doing today, April?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you made it. It's like a little after lunchtime for me. So I'm sure you're probably just trying to sneak this in the middle of your really busy day.
That I am.
So why don't you just take a moment to just maybe introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So my name is April Johnson. I am going to be, I'm 39 here soon. Actually next month. Yes. Been married to my husband.
Lying. You're lying.
I'm not lying. I'm being honest. 39. I've been married to my husband now for 17 years. I lose track of time. We've been together for like 20. I have 2 children. My daughter, who is going to be 19 in April, and I have a son who will be 14 in September. So I know, right? And me and my husband, we live out kind of in the middle of nowhere in central Pennsylvania. And we have a we try to live very holistic and very organic. So I'll share some of that with the audience here soon. But currently what I do now is I'm a functional medicine health coach. And I have been doing that now for the past year. And I'm actually still currently in school. I'm in my 2nd semester. But I love functional medicine. I love the concepts of how we can help people get to the root cause of their health conditions. And that's what I do.
That sounds exciting. I did a little research, of course, before I met you. And so I studied to be a health coach as well. So I'm super excited and curious to know a little bit more about what is the difference between like a functional medicine health coach, and not that there's a regular health coach, but just the standard everyday variety health coach.
I got you. So actually, when I first got into health coaching, I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. It's a pretty big health coaching school. A lot of people probably heard of it, IIN. And I left that. I graduated from it in 2017, and I saw my first client. And, when I went to meet her, all she really wanted was to eat healthier and exercise. It's really all she was focused on. And I was like, oh, I can help her with that. But then when I started working with her, she had thyroid-related issues, pretty severe. She was taking birth control for a long period of time. And there were some other things in there too. And I started to realize that I really wanted to be able to help my clients on a much deeper level than just, and then there's nothing wrong with, helping people with getting healthy, with eating healthy and all of that. But for me, I just felt like I couldn't help her. Like I really wanted to help her because I didn't understand what was really going on in her body. So that's when I started gravitating towards functional medicine, because it teaches you, looking at the body as a whole, and learn the interconnectedness. Is the body, the thyroid, affects so much in the body, which I didn't have any clue until after I started learning about functional medicine. But it's really just looking at the person as a whole and kind of just taking some of the puzzle pieces and kind of putting things together, like putting on, we like to call it like a detective hat. That's what I kind of like to call it. Just diving in there and trying to figure out what's going on with the person. It could be eating, but it could also be stress. Stress plays a huge role in our health, sleep, nutrient deficiencies, food sensitivities, inflammation, there's a whole bunch. And so, like I said, I just gravitated towards that because, like I said, I really wanted to help people really get to that root cause of what was going on. And just when I first started working on that first client, I just realized that I just wanted to do more than just, helping them with healthy eating and meal planning and, exercise. So that was kind of the difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a woman that was speaking at a conference I was at. I went to the Health Coach Institute, which is kind of like the one that's a couple of people went there where you went, and then started the Health Coach Institute, I believe. But they had a speaker who had Hashimoto's.
Hashimoto's.
Thank you.
Hashimoto thyroiditis.
Yes. And so she was actually speaking about functional medicine and functional nutrition because she was like part of a program on that. And it was really interesting because it was a deeper dive. Like they went into physiology and, not, I'm trying to tread careful with my terms, not just, but it wasn't like habit change or, changing your routines. It was a lot more about like literally like what was happening to the inside of you by what you put inside of you. And then she had to say she overcame it is not necessarily true, but the symptomatic parts of it that were causing her life to be unhappy and unhealthy were put at bay once she began to like really pay attention to how she was fueling her body.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah. So it's a really neat, it was just really exciting to listen to someone just, plus she's so passionate, right? Because it's, literally in her mind, it changed her life. It turned her from feeling like she was probably going to die any minute to, raising her children. And it was her name was Andrea. I don't remember her last name, but it was a really cool, really neat option or opportunity to meet someone like that and sort of hear their story.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, she was super smart. I'll have to find her last name and send her over to you because I think that she has some really good, even free information to help people sort of figure out who they needed to see or how they wanted to approach different types of health change, which was super helpful.
Oh yeah, sure. Send that over.
I will for sure. Let me write it down. I'm like Andrea. Spell a word I can't say. Yeah, I got you. Okay. I'm always doing this kind of stuff. That's a good. So one of the so many wonderful things and interesting things about you. I know that you're the founder of Journey to Healthy Living. Mm-hmm. And so what do you like? What do you do within that company?
Okay. Gotcha. So I founded Journey to Healthy Living. That is my business. I started it back 2017. I think I started it 2018. I lost track of time on that too. Oh goodness. But yeah, it's just fairly recent. And so right now in Journey to Healthy Living, it's just health coaching, but I'm really looking to expand it this year. Like I mentioned earlier, me and my husband are very, organic. We have a garden, we preserve. So I want to help teach people about that. I want to be able to help people with cooking. So I'm going to hopefully maybe this year remodel an old garage and make it into a workable kitchen, not only for our garden yields, but also I'd love to be able to do workshops in there and also do cooking classes in there. So yeah, it was birthed as a health coaching business, but I'm really, like I said, really looking to expand it this year.
Yeah. So it's not it's the bud of the big
the
thing
baby. And it's going to grow.
So one of the things I thought, again, interesting was you said it very specifically. So I thought that there's probably some interesting story behind it. But you said you're an advocate of non-toxic living. Could you just describe that a little bit and explain what that means to you and to what we should know about it?
Sure. So when I started learning about, my journey begins over probably 10 years ago, but it started with food. I started learning about our food industry. I started learning about the pesticides and insecticides that are being sprayed, GMOs, just how how bad our processed food really is. And when I found out that I was eating food that was really toxic to me, chemicals are not good for anybody and for my family. It really was the fire that lit up inside of me. And so, from there, it was just learning how to grow my own food. My husband doing that. Canning, trying to not use we don't use any type of spraying on our food at all. Started learning about products. That's a huge one, especially for women. The beauty, cosmetics, they are so loaded with so many chemicals and they're doing such hormonal imbalances in our body. So, looking for safer, companies out there that, really look to not use as much. I've even made my own stuff, my own cleaners and candles and lip balm and lotions So non-toxic living advocate is just like trying to not expose myself to toxins as much as I can, and to educate people about this as well, because unfortunately, we do live in a world where we are exposed to toxins all the time. But if we can cut that down dramatically, it does affect our health. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, like I said, I'm very passionate about talking about that, because toxins are just very harmful to us and doing a lot of health damages.
Well, it's good that you're passionate about it, right? I mean, everybody has to, if more people cared about it, then we would have less of them, just because there'd be more people advocating for safer choices. I have a daughter who's on the autism spectrum, and so there's always a lot of conversations in those communities and in special needs communities that is like, maybe it's that way because there was too much mercury in something, or maybe it's that way because of a vaccination. I'm not promoting any of that. I'm just saying that those are the types of conversations that come up. Or
Absolutely.
like we live in Wisconsin. I live in Wisconsin, so there's nothing but like farms, cows, and like half a city in Milwaukee, and like the farmers talk about it too, putting different expensive, nasty, horrible chemicals on the food that they eat. So it's good that there are people out there advocating for a change, because it certainly wasn't the way it always was. I remember canning with my when I was a little kid. My grandma passed away like about a year ago, so it's a nice memory. She had this like blackberry bush in the back of her house.
Nice. Yes.
It was almost like a forest of blackberry bush. This thing was just ginormous, and it was
That was beautiful.
She was huge, and it like now there's horses back there from my aunt, but we used to pick the blackberries and bring them in my grandmother, and I don't see a lot of people do this anymore, but she put like wax in the top instead of to seal off the berries after we made, like, we call it jam, but and it was actually not like, it was fun. It was a fun thing. But I mean, you don't know that many people anymore. I can tomatoes, or garden special, we call it, just like veggies and tomatoes. But I don't even do a lot of that anymore, because you try to find enough tomatoes to do that. You find a farmer's market. You're certainly not getting them at the grocery store. They're like,
I know.
you're going to go broke. So it's interesting that how much we've changed in just one, well, I guess 2 generations, from my grandmother's time to now. It's most things, not we're trying to do better too, but before trying to do better, most of the things in my house were in a can or in a bag and sealed, like, because they were full of salt, lots of sodium and everything.
Yes.
My husband wonders why he's on high blood pressure meds. I don't know, because everything we eat is like swimming in salt juice, right? So it makes sense.
Yes.
So I thought it was interesting the way you said this too. So you gardener, preserver, but then you said self-taught chef explicitly. So tell me a little bit about that and why it's important to you to sort of call it out.
Well, I used to be a really bad cook. My husband would probably be like, yeah. If it didn't come from a box, a can, frozen.
So you're shopping in my pantry for your food.
I mean, that's all I had, because I did not cook. And, looking up recipes, I was like, that's a chore. You know what I mean? But when I started learning about our food, I realized that I had to change. Like, I had to start learning how to make food. There was really no other way, it was just the way it was. And I mean, I wasn't the greatest at it first, but as time has gone on, and like I said, this has been a very long number of years, I would say that I'm pretty good in the kitchen. I think homemade meals are always the best way to go. You have more control over your ingredients, the quality of your ingredients, and nothing beats a home cooked meal. You know what I'm saying? I meet people all the time that say, like, I can't do that. I can't do what you do. And I said, girlfriend, listen, like, I was awful. And yeah, you can. It just takes time and it just takes practice. And that's why another reason why I'm just really like want to help people with cooking. And like I wanted to do those cooking classes eventually, maybe this year, if not this year, hopefully by next year, so that I can help people and just show them I always say healthy living does not, or healthy eating does not have to be complicated, nor does it have to be expensive. So yeah, I try to help people with budgeting and, trying to find things, organic food that's cheaper so they can bring into the kitchen. But it's really, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't even have to be hard. Simplistic. I like simple, easy meals here. I don't have time to be in the kitchen for hours. You know what I mean? So yeah, the self-taught chef, that's what that's all about. It's just, like I said, I went from not being all that great to making a decision that I just had to do it, and then just kept at it all of these years. And now I say I'm not too bad.
My husband, I remember the first meal I made him. We've been together 20 years this year. So we've my kids are a little younger than yours, but he still talks about, I didn't know you were supposed to brown the sausages. So I made brats and all I did was boil them. And so you could literally like see the juice under like the skin thing. Mm-hmm. And he ate one. So you knew it was love, right? He actually ate one like that. And I was like, I took one bite out of that and I was like, nah, I don't even care if I made it. That's not going in me. I am not eating that. And so like he eats one and then he says, can I brown this? I'm like, is that what's wrong? He's like, yeah. And I was like, sure. He browned. I was like, oh, that's much better. So he's a little gun shy, as one might imagine, but he's an amazing cook. He's a super, super great cook. And I'm awesome. I don't make the time to do a lot of it, but thankfully he likes it. But yeah, that's how we started with it was really bad. It was very, very bad. Don't do that, ladies. Brown the brats. It's not a good first date. Yes. Call April. She'll tell you how to make. She'll tell you how to make some probably better for you than a brat too. So that was fun. So I guess there was if I were to ask one more question would be, it sounds like you're doing a lot of learning, but how did you and your husband together change your lifestyle? Because I think you had mentioned quite a few things, but I have to imagine they didn't happen like yesterday. It took some time. So what are the different lifestyle changes that you made to start living this newer, healthier lifestyle?
Sure. And yeah, it did not happen overnight. And I tell everybody this and my clients that you can't make all of those changes in a matter of days, weeks, months. It takes years. I mean, and it's really being consistent and staying at it. And don't ever overwhelm yourself with making too many changes at once, because what will happen is you'll just say, and you'll go back to the way it was before, right?
Feel like I'm getting the Cheetos back. Heck with this.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just too much. And that's why I always tell people, it's at your own pace. So when we started learning about food, the first thing that we did was just focus on certain ingredients that we just did not feel like we wanted to put in our body at all anymore. And honestly, a lot of that eliminated the food in the house. Just those two.
So then we had no food.
So it was like, okay, all right. So now we're going to have to figure out how we're going to feed ourselves. But no, it was literally just phasing out the food in the kitchen and started putting in good quality food. We started shopping locally, farmers, because we live in central Pennsylvania. We have a lot of Amish out here, and they grow their own food and they raise their own animals. So, we started buying locally. So that took care of the meat, even some of the veggies. Then, we didn't start gardening right away. It was a little bit later, but, we started gardening. And then even after our first garden, I don't think we even did any canning or preserving until the following year. It was also very new to us. And even that, that learning that and doing all of that takes time. So yeah, I just started really working on the food first and getting that up to par. And then it was moving into the other parts of the life, like the products I was mentioning earlier, making my own. But yeah, it's like I always tell people, start off small, make those adjustments. When you feel comfortable and you're like, I got this, then move on to something else. You know what I mean? That way, like I said, you're not overwhelming yourself. And, before you know it, like I said, it's been like 10 years, and it's hard to believe how our life has changed so much from what it was. It's crazy and kind of mind blowing sometimes you think about it, but it was just, and then now it's just life. It's just our lifestyle. This is just how we live.
How about your children? You said you have a 19-year-old. A 14 is 14. I've got one of those. Well, we could talk about them for hours, but do you see them, do they prefer like more healthy foods, or are they more, or are they like bucking the system a little bit?
Well, my son is actually probably was more on board with it, but he doesn't really like veggies, so that also makes it a little bit more complicated either. But he's very like, he doesn't want to eat school lunch. He's like, I always got to pack my own lunch, because he doesn't want to eat their food, because he knows what it is. So he's very picky about what he eats when it comes to food. My daughter, she would eat our food, but then she'd also go and eat out with her friends, like McDonald's and all these other places that we just don't eat at anymore. So yeah, that's always kind of been a struggle, and I kind of just made this decision that, listen, you've been taught, you've been educated, I shared with you, and then in the end, it kind of just,
they got to make their own choices, right?
Exactly. That's kind of where I left that.
Well, that's fair. We have a 6, 8, 10, and 13-year-old, and our oldest is the girl who's 14. And my husband's like a meatitarian, so I think he would eat meat and nothing else if we let him. And my daughter she's not a vegetarian. She's just doesn't like meat, right? It's not like a statement. It's just, she just doesn't like it at all.
Yeah.
And a few things bother her too. I mean, she's very socially conscious. But it's super hard because he wants to make like a giant roast with potatoes and carrots, and she doesn't like meat at all.
Yeah.
She doesn't like cooked carrots and potato, and so she'll eat like the potato, and then tons and tons of carbs, right? So then she's just eating tons and tons of carbs. And it's like try to figure it out. But I was like, you know what? She's eating. She knows what's good for her. She's choosing better for herself.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to support that too. So my husband would get mad, and I'm like, hey, if she wants to go have some yogurt or have an apple or some other kind of food that she prefers that, I think you actually accidentally taught her well. So we just have to deal with, how that goes, and maybe make her something she does kind of like, or have options available that she can eat, the apples or the fruit or the vegetables. Because she's choosing not, because she doesn't like hot dogs, she doesn't like chicken nuggets, she likes food.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I was always curious how other moms deal with the turkeys that they have at their houses.
It's so hard to accommodate everybody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It is so hard. And when you try to implement even like a healthy eating, I mean, when we started doing it when they were younger, it was not an easy transition. They were used to Kraft mac and cheese and hot dogs and chicken nuggets, all that kind of stuff. And then they're like, what are you throwing on my plate?
I'm not eating that Brussels sprout. I don't even care.
Exactly.
You can't make me.
It was fun.
My son likes Brussels sprouts though, which is always fun, but yeah. Well, thank you so much. This is a really fun interview. Would you like to tell everybody how they could get in touch with you if they're looking for someone to support them in their health journey?
Absolutely. So yeah, I do free discovery calls, and you can actually contact me at my website, or on my website's not up and running yet. So you can have to actually email me. My website will be up and running later this year, but it's not right now. At April@journeytohealthyliving.net. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Those are two other places that you can locate me at. But email would be great. Just send me an email, let me know if you want to set up a discovery call.
We'll make sure to have all of that information in the show notes as well, so that people don't have to dig around or try to remember it or listen to the podcast and go, oh yeah, I know that. But Yeah, I love that. I think that's wonderful. Do you share with people like your preserving recipes and stuff like that? Are you at that level yet? Or are you still sort of doing that for home and working your way up there?
Um, I have shared some with people, like people will like direct message me and be like, hey, like I saw you did this. Cause I share a lot on Facebook and Instagram, all that
Okay.
stuff. And
Yeah.
people will hit me up and I will share it. I think as time goes on and Dream Healthy Living starts evolving, I'm sure all of that will come out. But yeah, I mean, if anybody's ever interested, they're more than welcome to just say, hey, like, how did you do that?
I
How
have
did
a
you make that? I
yeah,
mean,
I
I
have a
plan on doing
friend.
classes for them eventually.
Yeah,
So
that's true. One of
yeah.
my friends' grandmother was from Serbia, and she used to make roasted red pepper canning. So first she would roast all of the red peppers, and then we would, yes, it was literally that good. So she came over one summer and helped us because I do tomatoes and like, veggies and that's it. Like I'm not fancy. And she's like, oh, you have to do this. And it took all day, but it was so worth it.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh,
you
yes.
didn't have to cook them. You could like, oh, yes. So I have to get her recipe someday. It was super good.
I bet it was.
It was. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. Well, thank you so much, April. It was really nice spending some time with you today, and I'll make sure we have all your information in the show notes for our guests so that if they're looking to kind of get to the root cause of maybe they're not feeling so well and what they're putting in their body, they'll have a nice resource they can reach out to.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you soon. Bye.
Alrighty. Bye.